My name is Stephen Wilson. I'm a 2012 Metro Atlanta Corps member, and I teach fourth grade at Hapeville Elementary School. So when I think of how I ended up in the classroom, I think a lot about my family's background and how as a child I did have access to a really quality education. But the reality is there were still challenges to that even sometimes brought into question my own academic abilities. Hapeville Elementary is located just south of downtown Atlanta. And in Hapeville, it's a pretty interesting town. It's located just next to the biggest airport in the world, but Hapeville is actually a town where everyone actually walks. So in Hapeville, it's pretty unique because we have a predominantly Hispanic population. Over 80% of our students are English language learners. You're really seeing a group of first-generation Americans trying to create a new story, a new narrative for themselves in that community. And all in the midst of a town where there are, the original Chick-fil-A is just down the street from our school, Delta headquarters, and Porsche Cars International are headquartered in Hapeville as well. So you see this very small community situated between these major international companies. In my classroom, my vision is for my students to be leaders in math and science. And the reason is because we understand that math and science are a chance to change Hapeville, the community I teach in, as well as the world in general. And so for my students, we invest around three sort of principles. We invest in ourselves by learning, we invest in others by helping, and we invest in our future by saving. When my students talk about investing in ourselves, they're talking about really committing to the goals that we set out academically. So at the beginning of the year, we set a goal of every student growing at least 2 full years in math, and then in science, we're working on using those skills and combining what we know about math and science in our writing skills. So really growing as writers who understand the scientific method in a way that a lot of elementary school students do not. So at the beginning of the year, a lot of my students came in below grade level. And I've really challenged them to meet our big goal for the year, which is growing 2 full years in math. At this point, we're in February, and the reality is that a lot of my students can already say that they've grown 2 full years in math. And that's something they're really proud of. For students like Josefina and for Diana too, they can tell their siblings and their classmates that they've worked hard and that it's paid off for them, that they're thinking like a 6th grader in math or even a 7th grader in a lot of cases. The reality is that for a lot of my students, that's a trend that we see across the board. Investing in others is the way my students show how much they've grown personally and how they understand how their background and how unique that is, and just how powerful their background is as well. So when I think of investing in the future by saving, I'm thinking about how to put my students on an entirely different path towards college. So I did a lot of research, and what I learned was that by opening savings accounts in my students' names, they were 6 times more likely to attend college. That was a really life-changing and sort of trajectory-changing thing for my students. When I think about the work that I'm most proud of in my time in the classroom, I think about how it's very much outside the box that we put teachers in. That a lot of the work I've done in terms of getting savings accounts for my students or even exposing them to the world of math and science outside of the classroom really are all outside of the job description that most teachers see when they sign on. I'm really proud of that work, but as it makes me think about going on beyond the classroom, I think that the work I'm doing is ill-fitted to the size of the challenges we face, and so I'm really engaged with the idea of pursuing solutions that answer the larger questions for low-income communities like Hapeville across the country. And so I'm interested in pursuing some of those legal questions, but also advocacy work for my students and their families, and making sure that not just my students in Hapeville, not just my one classroom, but communities like Hapeville across the country have access to the sort of financial and academic needs that they deserve.